Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Live Repurpose Live, where we are here to inspire you to live on purpose and create a life that you love by design. My name is Lissa Figgins, and it's my mission to help after 40 women like you to design your life in 7 key areas so you can experience more growth, more balance, and more impact. And it's my intention each and every week to introduce you to an amazing woman who is on this journey with us and is also inspiring others along the way. So today I am super excited to introduce you to my friend Erin Harrigan. She's a Christian wife, mom, speaker, and coach, and she is passionate about guiding ambitious Christian women to break free from overwhelm, from overachieving, and from under-fulfilling to carry out God's assignment with clarity, serenity, and fulfillment. And here's what I love. Listen to this. If you're feeling like life around you is harried, her heart is really to help us to tune out the world and then tune into God's truth and turn up the focus so that we can really redesign hustle and pursue success God's way. So Erin, I'm so excited that you are here. Tell us a little bit more about, your journey and kind of how you got to this place to be so passionate around helping women with their hustle and their success in a different way.
Well, thank you for the honor of being here and to share this message that God gave me, which is really not where I thought I would be. I'm sitting here at 54. I've had a business of my own for 12 years. I was in the network marketing industry. And when I got into that 12 years ago at, 42, this is not what I ever thought I would be doing.
But I have been
right. I know it just kind of sneaks up on you. I had been a driver's driver and achievement chaser my whole life. I'm the oldest of 4 to a single mom. I was the very responsible and independent one. And growing up in and out of poverty really led me to want to redefine what my legacy would look like. So I went to school, I got the degree, I got the job, corporate world, and I was really about making the money. And I'm a hard worker. So being tenacious, being focused and driven is just really who God made me to be. So for the bulk of my life, really, that's what I went after. I was looking for my identity in the achievement, in the next goal, in the next promotion, in the next dollar, in the next client, and all the things. And after getting married and having kids, interestingly, 2 daughters. So like, what's the example that I'm setting as I'm kind of doing all of the things to build business? I hit this wall in 2014. And some of your listeners or those watching may be able to appreciate this. I kind of woke up one day and looked in the mirror and thought, this is not what I thought success would feel like. You talk about helping women who are over 40, and it's so fascinating for me to look back at what's happened over the last 12 years. All of that happened after 40. I became an entrepreneur after 40. I chose to do that so I could redirect my time and be able to design my days and be more available to my family, but without sacrificing the income, right? So when I woke up that day in 2014 with the big house and the luxury car and making money, but not quite enough, because I had in the previous year been let go from my very lucrative corporate job. This feeling that overcame me was sort of like emptiness. Like it was never going to be enough. I was going to keep striving for the next thing, but I was trying to fill this hole. What I did not know at the time, Lissa, is that it was a God-shaped hole. And when I hit that wall, I did what any woman would do, which is reach out to a friend, right? I reached out to a mentor of mine in my business. We call her the Velvet Hammer because she is very good at giving the truth, like hammering the truth, but with love and care.
Right.
And she's an incredible woman of Christ. And she asked me this question, which I would pose to all of you listening. Do you know who you are and whose you are? And that question changed everything for me and led me to doing what I'm doing now, which is kind of like sharing this roadmap that God gave me with other women.
I love that. And it's so interesting. It's such a journey, isn't it?
Oh.
Because, you didn't wake up, or even graduate from high school or college or, like all these different milestones. You didn't know that this is where it was leading you. And it's so interesting how God uses our path,
all of it,
to make us into who, he wants us to be. And that's part of, there's kind of a dual meaning to repurpose when I talk about this show being repurposed after 40. part of that is like being repurposed, like God taking those things in our past, whether it's relationships, whether it's education, whether it's experiences, whether it's trauma and difficulty and pain or whatever it is, and reusing them, allowing us to use it in a new way, right? To be able to bless, to encourage, to help others, on this journey. And then the other way that I've been more recently defining it is about like reconnecting to our purpose. Because I think what you just described, I mean, you and I could have been sisters separated at twins separated at birth, even the waking up in the mirror, like that's the exact way that I describe it, of just waking up in the mirror and looking at myself and going, what just happened? It wasn't just the wrinkles around the eye and a little bit of pudge around the belly after 3 babies, but it was more the who am I and what's God calling me to do? And what does this look like? And is there life beyond my 4 walls? And, that type of thing. Where was I going? So this whole idea of going, what is my purpose, right? Of knowing, okay, God's created me for a reason. Right. And, and what does this look like? And what are maybe those, like, what's the breadcrumb trail, right? Over the years.
Yes.
That are leading us to this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And it is such a journey. And when I hit that wall and had that conversation with the Velvet Hammer, and she asked me that key question, the next question was, do you know Jesus? And at the time, Lissa, like Jesus was sort of this mashup for me, like God, law of attraction, universe, and like this guy, right? I believed in God. I felt I had a relationship with God. I prayed to God, but I didn't have an intimate personal relationship with Jesus because see, to that point, I had made all the things that God had given me to steward. I actually made them my idols, right? My business,
right?
Motherhood, achievement, being a wife. So these became my idols. And in fact, my business actually became my savior because when 2 years into my network marketing business, I had reached the third of 4 levels. At the same time, the job that was very lucrative that I wanted to leave left me. And you would think that's an incredible blessing, right? Like now I can put all my time and effort into building my business. But what I did while I did do that is it then became all consuming for me. I found my identity in it, right? And so when we seek to find our identity and we define ourselves by those achievements or those roles or those titles, it really leaves very little room for God to move in our life. And God really couldn't move in my life because I didn't have a connection to Jesus because these other things were my savior, but yet I still had this black hole. And so in that conversation, October 4th, 2014, I gave my life to Christ. That changed everything because it changed the way I viewed it business. It changed the way I do business. And at the same time, as an ambitious woman, I am a list maker. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm all about making the list. And if I do something that's not on the list, I put it on the list so I can check it off. And I know I'm not the only one out there. So I thought, oh, check that box. I got Jesus. I'm good to go. And my mentor said, like, this is a process. It is a journey. You referred to that earlier, but don't we all want that one thing? Like we check the box, right? And okay, that's done. So now everything else will open up. And so it has been a journey. It has changed me because, scripture tells us that we become a new creation. I love how you define repurpose in different ways, because I believe that when we become a new creation, which by the way, if you've been a Christian for a while, you get to do that every single day as you renew your relationship with Jesus. He upcycles us. Like he takes all of that stuff. He redeems every single bit of it. And he begins to use it to really form us into who he's truly made us to be and the assignment that he's truly given us to walk out. And at the same time, I do think it's so unique for us after 40, because we do kind of go, maybe we've had kids or we've been married or not, but we've kind of had the bulk of our career to that point. And we do sort of wake up thinking there has to be more than this, because all the things that the world has told me to go after and go make happen and go for more, and what defines a successful leader, and particularly a successful woman, like it really leaves us empty. And So really understanding that our purpose ultimately is to love people and make disciples.
Mm.
But God gives us our businesses or our volunteer opportunities or our serving opportunities to really walk out that assignment. And that is repurposing, right? Because we probably
Yes.
didn't look at it that way before.
Yeah, I love that. Right. And you're right. We are a new creation in Christ and we have this new purpose, right? It's not just about me and it's not just about this world around me. And it's not just about this time that this body will be here on this planet, right? It's about what's the eternal impact that what I'm doing is making, right? And it starts in our families and then it goes into our communities, right? And then that starts having a ripple effect around us.
Right.
And, and I think that's maybe what happens, after 40 is, for me, I think I started seeing that my kids were going to leave the nest and my identity at that point was so wrapped around being that mom.
Yeah.
Right. And doing that right and raising them, to know the Lord and to do all these things well and all of that. And I started looking and going, wait, they're not going to be here that much longer. Who am I? Right. Like what, what happened to me? And I knew like God was tugging in my heart, like there are things I want you to do outside of just you. And it's time to start, kind of doing that. But so why do you think it is that, especially as women, because this is who my audience is, why do you think we get so caught up in this hustle, hurry, achieve, do, like all those things? Why do you think that's such an issue for women?
So part of it is the noise of the world, right? So for so long, we fought for our rights. I recently went to an event down in Occoquan, Virginia at the National Suffrage Museum, I think it is, or they have a monument there. And for so long, we fought for our place. We fought for our rights. And certainly, our sisters of color are still fighting for that, right? So then we got it. But then my friend Sherry shared with me the other day, she tuned into a Forbes webinar about the gender disparity in income. And I'm going to misquote this. I'm just going to tell you that, but it's something like
a loose translation here.
The
right?
loose translation is that for white women, that gap will close 30 years from now. Okay. But for women of color, that gap won't close for 100 more years. So what we've done, and there's nothing wrong with us, finding our place and contributing to the world. That's we're made to do that. But we think we have to work so hard to go make it happen. So part of it is the noise of the world. Part of it is that we are just born and bred, even though the scripture tells us throughout to stop looking left and right, that we just do that, right? We're constantly looking left and right. What is so-and-so doing? And am I keeping up? And am I not? I mean, think about it. When you had kids, when your kids were little, when my kids were little, they're 24 and 22 now. I remember getting together with other parents and having these conversations. Oh, well, she's 80% on the growth chart. Like it starts there, right?
Exactly. And you and I were raising kids when there wasn't Instagram.
Oh
right?
My gosh.
You literally had to go and, and see your friend or legit have a phone conversation. You can even text them versus you can scroll and see how you compare to everybody else out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I know that it's difficult because the world is loud. We live in a fallen world. So it's what we put ourselves through. And then there's this idea of control. There's this idea of make it happen, be a boss, babe. If it is to be, it's up to me. And it is really hard for us to stop white knuckling. Like, I know it sounds much better when Carrie Underwood sings it, Jesus, take the wheel. But honestly, if I summed up my journey to where I am now, it would be like ambitious woman gets lost on her way to the top, finds Jesus. He says, let me drive, hold the map. And then later he says, oh, that map I gave you, which by the way is the Bible, go share that with other women, right? We have a hard time letting go of control. It's very cliche. We hear it all the time, let go, let God, but we don't really know what that means. No. We don't really know what it means to be led because we're so afraid that if we allow him to lead us, what if he slows me down? What if he redirects me? What if he changes the plan? What if he didn't mean for me to reach those goals? Like I was going to be at the top of my company. This is not what I planned.
This was not in the plan, right?
This is not right. And so that's why it's so hard. And I do believe as women, we desperately want him to lead us, but we're just a little bit afraid of what that might mean.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because it's so much better when we don't.
Oh.
Right. And it's like, I mean, think
Right.
back to when we had kids, right? And they were, they were learning to ride their bike, right? And they I remember holding that middle bar on the handlebars of my kids and running alongside them, right? Or holding the back of the seat. And, if you went to let go or you pretended like you were holding, but you really weren't, they were like, no, but you knew once they were like, once they didn't have you hanging on, they were going to have a much better ride and they were going to enjoy it and they could go so much farther. Right. But they were so like, no, this feels so safe. And
yes.
Right. And yet we do the same thing.
Yeah. And we think that we're safe in our own control. Right. But ladies, ultimately, we are not in control. We're just not. Right. I mean, he who knit us together in our mother's womb, who knows every hair on our head, who created all the creation we see around us. Like, really? Are we really in control? We're not.
Right.
And that makes it so hard for us to let it go. And so therefore we wrap up, we anchor our identity in the achievement, and we anchor our action to our own direction. And, we try to be disciplined in our daily actions, but we're very distracted by the shiny things. And that's that's where the enemy wants us. He wants us distracted. He wants us discontented. He wants us doubtful. And guess what? He wants us disunified, right?
Yeah.
It's why there's so much like, what is she doing that I'm not doing? Right. And we get so caught up in that breaking free from that, exactly what you just said. It's why I talk about clarity and serenity. Like, serenity is not a word that we use, but think about it. The definition of serenity is untroubled, unruffled, calm. Like, doesn't that feel really good?
So much better.
That's how we can operate when we allow the Lord to lead us. And then what he has for us is so much bigger and better than, the goals that we set with earthly eyes and earthly thoughts. Yeah.
But it's almost like we don't even know that world's out there. Like, all we can see is what's right in front of us. And we think this is, the best. And it's like, we don't even know what we're missing out on because we haven't taken the time to just let go of the steering wheel and feel what it's like to not be the one that's in control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wow. And I think about the ripple effect that has, right? Because we all know that, especially in our homes, we are such a thermostat for our families and the people around us and all of that. And so what if we were to start to let go of some of this and start hustling less and pursuing success God's way and having a whole different perspective on what we're doing and why we're doing it? So I know people are listening right now and they're like, okay, yep, raising the hand. That's me. I'm the girl who adds something to her checklist just to check it off. I'm the girl who's got all the spreadsheets. I'm the girl who has the reminders, the alarms, the whatever, right? I like to say I'm a recovering to-do list girl and still working on it. What would you say to her? What would be some steps that she can start taking to start letting go of that steering wheel and truly letting God, have that?
Well, the funny thing is that we're a little bit adrenalized by the hustle. Like, it kind of gets us going, right?
Right.
But I believe that we can redefine that. So let me start by saying the key to all of this is learning to redefine hustle. And doing that, you're pursuing success God's way. So I want to give a shout out to Melinda Fuller. She wrote a book, Obedience Over Hustle, I think it's called. And she talks about how Jesus hustled. Now, the word that is not in the Bible. I just want to be clear.
Right.
But she points us to Mark chapter 4. And she says, Jesus worked with small groups. He worked with large groups. He traveled all over, and he clearly had a defined timeline, right? 3 years. If you look up the word hustle in the dictionary, there's actually two definitions. The first definition is, paraphrasing, to really work with intention, to have a sense of urgency. And that's what Jesus did. Like, there's no doubt that that's what he did. The second definition is the one that the world has attached itself to, the one that gets the bad rap. And it should, because it's a very like aggressive, make it happen roar, right? And so while there is movement in a lot of messaging about letting go of the hustle. I believe it's not actually letting it go. It's just taking Jesus's definition, if you will, right? So I believe there's 4 things that you can do for that. And I call this the 4 keys. The first thing is you have to understand who defines this for you. Like, how are you defined? Who defines you, who you are and whose you are, right?
Right.
Who defines success and who defines progress? Only God can define that. So that's the first step, is really sitting down and saying, how am I even defining what success means? How am I even defining who I am? And these are kind of the steps that I walk my coaching clients through. The second thing is, if you know that he defines you and only he defines you, then whose direction are you going to take? His. I call him our great positioning shepherd, our GPS.
GPS, love it.
Holy Spirit gave me that one a few weeks ago, because he ultimately directs us, right?
Right.
So not only are we then breaking the chains of overwhelm, trying to keep up with who the world says that we're supposed to be and what success really means, but we're also breaking the chains of overachievement, because when we allow him to direct us, we're really doing what he's given us to do. And it's a daily decision, and we are always a work in progress, right?
Right.
Then the third thing is to take how he defines you and how he directs you, and then we've got to put it into daily discipline. Because listen, there are a lot of things on our to-do list, but are those things that are on our to-do list what I call mission focused? In other words, if you only got those 2 things done today to move your business or to move your volunteering or whatever forward, are you satisfied with that? And can you actually be disciplined in your time to put that action in place, right? So if we take and ask ourselves, how does he define me? And we get clear on how he's directing me, and then we build our daily discipline and our action around that, then the 4th key is we allow him to develop us. You know, we have to be pliable. We are like in the potter's hands. I love that TD Jakes calls his church Potter's Church. Like, we are meant to be flexible. We are meant to be shaped by him. We are simply a vessel, right? And so when we allow him to develop us, here's what happens. In business, there's this concept of the closed loop. In other words, like, you make the plan, you execute the plan, you learn the things, and you put that back in so that the next time you do it better, right?
Sure.
That's exactly what these 4 keys are, right? We allow him to define and direct us. We put that into discipline. Oh, guess what? I learn, I develop, so that next time I do it better. Next time when I come to the same crossroads, I'm like, hold on a second. I know the enemy is telling me to go this way, but I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to let that distract me, right? Those 4 keys, to me, it's really about 4 questions, right? Who's defining you? Who's directing you? How are you putting that into discipline? And how are you developing? And this is an ongoing process that will never be done with on this side of heaven.
Right.
But here's what it does. Besides breaking those chains of overwhelm and overachievement, it breaks the chains of unfulfillment, because we're no longer finding our fulfillment in the achievement, right? And then it unlocks clarity, because we know who we are and whose we are, and we know what our assignment is, and we know what to do. It unlocks serenity, because we're no longer running around trying to make it all happen and figuring out how we can get ahead faster. And then it unlocks fulfillment. And this month, that's my theme on the Hustle with Heart podcast. We're talking about fulfillment and making it that practical. To me, I mean, I still have the guide on my desk, you know, because there still are times where I'm thinking, hold on a second, who defined that, right? So those are really practical questions that women can ask themselves and really pray and journal over to help them break those chains.
And I love that you said this is an ongoing process, because I feel like we think I should have arrived, you know, by this point in my life, I should have figured this out. Or by this point, you know, if I put this much time or this much effort, or I put this much work into something, like, yep, I should be able to check that box and be like, okay, I got that. And now I can move on to something else. And yet I think you hit on that this is a growth process. And once we even say I've arrived, we settled, right? We've settled for less than what he has for us. We know that God has abundance for us, right? And he came to give us life and give it to us abundantly.
Right.
And, and just saying, okay, I'm always going to be asking these questions because I always want to be growing in my relationship with him and also in living out what he's called me to do.
Yeah. And that process that I personally went through when I had that sort of mirror on the wall moment is so critical to understand, because what I thought was, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not willing to work hard enough. I must be lazy. I'm not doing enough things. Like it's me. And so if you're asking yourself that question, like, shouldn't I have learned this by now? Like, shouldn't I know this? Like, I've been working at this business, or I've been working toward these goals or whatever. Take some time to stop and say, Lord, how do you define success for me?
Right.
What is it that you want me to be doing? And then, Lord, show me where I need to go and what I need. Like, give me some sort of the roadmap. And then if you're faithful to take the action and trust that he who created everything created you, as my friend Dr. Sherry says, on purpose for a purpose, and the world needs you, then you can stop beating yourself up over what you haven't gotten done, or that you weren't cut out for this, or you're not doing enough work, or all of those things. You're not supposed to have learned this yet, because the day that you stop learning the next thing, he's done with you and he'll bring you home to heaven. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And I love that his yoke is easy and his burden is light.
That's
and I just finished reading the book, or almost done with, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And he talks about that in there, right? And like, what does that look like to have a light and easy life? And it doesn't mean I'm kicking back my feet and I'm, eating bonbons and sipping, margaritas and watching Netflix. But how can we live even in the midst of this chaotic, like you said, broken, sinful world, and have that peace in our hearts, that peace that goes beyond circumstances, that goes beyond understanding, that's anything beyond me, right? And what would the world look like if that's how we showed up every day?
Oh, right. I mean, can you imagine if our ultimate purpose is to love people and make disciples? When you're showing up that way, with a calm and a peace and a joy, you are truly reflecting Christ's light. And guess what? People are going to be drawn to you because they're going to want to know, like, there's something different about you. I want to do business with you. Or can you tell me more? Like, how do you live this out? Right? That's our ultimate purpose. And if we will have trouble. Jesus told us that, right? We are going to have challenges, but if in the face of that, we can come back to, Lord, how are you defining and directing me? Then we can, yes, we show up hurt, and yes, we mourn, and yes, we get angry and all of those things, but we can come at it with still this foundation of calm and joy that, like you said, the peace that surpasses understanding, that is operating with, a light yoke and a light burden for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I just said Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 flash in my mind, trust in the Lord with all your heart, right?
That's right.
And lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways, whatever he's calling you to do, acknowledge him, and he's going to direct your paths, and yet we read that, we probably recited that, who knows how many times in Sunday school or Awana or with our kids or whatever. And then we live life like, I'm trusting myself. It's my wisdom. It's, it's my direction or the world's direction or whatever. And so how to truly let go and let God in a real way, not just the cliche way. I love this.
That's right.
Well, I know that my listeners are right now just going, they feel kind of like that breath of fresh air. Like, okay, there is life beyond the hustle and hurry and chaos. Right. But they also may be feeling a little bit of that angst of like, I have no idea how to really get from where I am to that kind of a life.
Yeah.
So what kind of resources do you have to offer? How can people find you? Like what would be a next good step for somebody who's listening and saying, this is something I really want to start addressing and doing something about?
Yeah. So for my hands-on friends, because I know I am a hands-on, like, give me an exercise or something, they can go grab my 4 keys tool. So it's a free download that they can grab. just erinharrigan.com/4keys. I know you'll share that link. And
Yes.
it's really a PDF that just allows you to have it in front of you, but that you also could open your journal and, look at it and journal about it and pray over it and that kind of thing. So that's kind of like a tangible hands-on. And then the other thing I would say is go listen to my podcast. The Hustle with Heart podcast is tailor-made for ambitious Christian women who hit that wall. And the heart of it is helping entrepreneurs align results to God's truth. So that is my mission. As Lisa said earlier, like my mission is to help you tune out the world, tune into God's truth, and turn up focus so that you can build a thriving business. But even if you're not a businesswoman, you will get something out of it because you're probably ambitious in other ways. And when you listen to the podcast, I really bring biblical truth with practical application. So those are the two things that I would say to give you kind of a tangible next step. And I would encourage you to give it time, because you're not going to solve this problem overnight. And you're not going to solve it on this side of heaven. Jordan Rayner, in his book, Redeeming Your Time, talks about, I don't know if it's his quote or someone else's, I can't remember, but he says that like even musical geniuses will die with their best symphonies unwritten. So you're not going to get it all done, friend. You're not. But what if you could be focused on God's mission to allow him to lead you and pursue success his way, and then just experience this sense of, clarity and serenity and fulfillment? It would radically change the way you do business and the way you do life.
Right. Oh, so amazing. And so much more freeing and so much more productive when you really think about it, right? Because we're not allowing all the things that don't matter to fill that space.
All the clutter.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, that's what I focused on in March was clutter, whether it's our physical space clutter, whether it's technology and devices clutter, or whether it's just our schedule and calendar. Everything that is in our world, physical or electronic, is there because either we invited it or we allowed someone else to bring it in and we let it stay.
That is so good.
And then we wonder why I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the focus. I don't have the energy to do these things that I really want to do, or to even let God work in my life because I'm so busy keeping up with all the stuff that I have.
Right.
And not letting, it's like if you were to allow all the weeds to grow over those beautiful flowers and they don't get any sunlight, right? Like
that's right.
You have to like pull those weeds out so the sunlight can get in there and allow them to flourish. So
yes, that's his pruning. That's what he does.
Right. I will drop the link to my Clear the Clutter workshop that I did because we talked about those areas. And I love the fact that you talked about a checklist because I'm a recovering to do checklist girl. And so I've created one recently that's called Do Less, Live More. And so it still has boxes to check for those of you who like the boxes to check, but it's about who you're being first and let that inspire, and it involves prayer and meditation and, journaling and reading some of the disciplines we've talked about today. Let that then guide what you do, right? So you can filter out all the stuff that really doesn't matter and just focus in on what is God calling me to do today. So I will drop that link in there as well. Love it. Such a great thing. So at the end of the episodes lately, I've been asking this question. So we talk about 7 different areas of our life. They all start with F: faith, family, friends, field of work, which can be a business, working for somebody else, full-time mom or grandma, volunteering, finances, fitness, which is mental or physical wellness, and fun. So don't just give me the Jesus answer. Like you don't have to say faith just because you're here talking about that. Like, I totally I'll even put that caveat out there. But of those 7 areas, which is the one area that for the rest of this year that you are like, if I really put some more attention and intention into this would have a huge ripple effect on, these other areas of my life? What would that one be for you?
So for me, it's family. I'm an empty nest mom. I mentioned earlier, my girls are in their 20s, and this parenting adults thing is different. So for me, it's really family because it's a different world to be empty nest. Besides our kids being out of the house in the last 6 months, I think it's been, we put both of our dogs down, unfortunately. So now we really are empty nest. So I'm focusing on how do I show up for my family in this new stage of life?
Sure.
Right? Like, how is God repurposing me as a mom, not to be a mom like I used to be, but to be more of an advisor. And like, what does that look like? And it's hard because what I was going to say earlier was, it has been over time simpler for me to let go and let him guide me and put the 4 keys into action. Not so easy for me with my kids. And I was never a helicopter mom.
Right.
But now I'm like, you're making adult decisions. I can give you some expertise around that. And they're like, no, it's okay. So family is my big thing.
It's the ultimate test of letting go of control when we let our kids spread their wings.
Yes.
And,
true.
So good, but it's so important, right? And it's so freeing, and it's best for them, and it's best for us. And that's how God designed it, right? We didn't want them to live in our basement for the rest of their lives and, be at the kitchen table every single night. We enjoy them and welcome them in when they come back, but they want to go pursue their own things. And I think that's part of this process of us letting go of control, these other areas of our life. So I love that tangible, just reminder of how to live that out. So thank you so much for today, for sharing your heart, for sharing your vision, your experience, your mission, the truth that God's word says, and just what impact this has in us. It's really touched me a lot personally. And I know that it's touched, our listeners today. So those of you who are listening, this is one of those episodes I know you're going to want to listen to again. So make sure you save it. Go follow Erin's podcast. I have it in my library, so I listen to it every week when it comes out, and share this with friends of yours. Yeah. If you know someone who tends to be in the hustle mode, right? Or the doing mode, or the, always needing to, validate ourselves by what we're achieving or our roles, please share this with them, because I think this can be that breath of fresh air and help them on that journey as well. Right.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, we're just praying that God touches the right people with this conversation today. Thank you so much, Erin, for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And until next time, keep living out that God-given purpose, right? And enjoying the life that He's given you to live. Take care.